Live from the Counterpunch Media Studios in Davison, Michigan, it's time for real lives, real families, real fitness. It's time for Derek Noel Fitness.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the big ol' episode 50 of Derek Noel Fitness Live. That's right, we've made it 50 episodes in. That makes me super excited. I can't wait to bring plenty more episodes to you, especially with the people that I've been talking to lately in order to bring more content and more value to you as you are watching these shows. Real quick, I do want to say that this episode, we talk about training high school athletes with Mr. Scott Mullenix. He's the long snapper at Grand Valley State University in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or in that area, where within. And he has just recently started working with high school athletes in order to help them bridge the gap between high school and college athletics, because there really is a very big gap there. And he wants as many high school athletes as possible to be successful with that transition. So he's been working with their nutrition and with their strength programming to make sure that happens. Real quick, before I go any farther, please make sure you give this video a like and a share, especially if you have any parents or you know of any kids who can get a lot of valuable information out of this. This is definitely going to be an episode you don't want to miss. So we talk about the nutrition aspect for a lot of it because it really is very important. We also talk and touch on when they should actually be starting a strength training program and what they can do even before their strength training. So what they can do for a base before they even pick up a weight. So we talk about that. We talk about some do's and don'ts for what the high school athlete should be doing in terms of nutrition. And that is what we honestly spend a majority of the time focusing on. So that's going to be very important, especially if you're a parent who has absolutely no idea what to feed their high school athlete. It's super important to make sure they are properly fueled, and we'll touch on that. If you'd like to check out Scott Mullenix, you can also find him on Facebook, Scott Mullenix. He was actually tagged in the episode. And you can find him on Instagram as well as Scott_Mullenix. Those are the only two things he has currently. But if you'd like any more information, you can reach out to him. You can reach out to me for me to put you in touch with him. We can do whatever you need to do to get that information, because we both want those high schoolers to be successful in whatever they're doing at the next level. So without further ado, here's the episode with long snapper from Grand Valley State University, Scott Mullenix. We are here with long snapper and senior of Grand Valley State University. He is focusing on working with high school athletes to help prepare them to excel in the college setting. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Mullenix. How's it going, Scott?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I figured this would be an awesome opportunity to have a conversation. I know you through mutual group that we're in with a bunch of like-minded coaches. So I wanted to make sure that I have, you know, people who actually make sense with what they're saying come on the show. And I really feel like that having a conversation with you would be awesome, especially for parents who have kids who are in high school, or even high school athletes who need to hear what your message is. So I really wanted to make sure you were on, because I know a lot of people like that watch this show, and they can they'll definitely be getting some value out of this. So I guess, Scott, first off, tell me a little bit about it yourself. Like, where are you coming from and what are you doing?
So yeah, I was born in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. So it's about 25 minutes east of St. Paul, and I ended up moving to a super small town in Indiana called Greentown. I moved there when I was about 6 years old, so I pretty much grew up in Indiana. So super small school there. Played baseball, football, track, basketball. So I did a little bit of everything. Yeah, and then I got up to Grand Valley State University up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So really since then, it's been super eye-opening, just being able to go to all these different places and kind of like live there. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the Sparks Notes version of kind of how I got to where I am now.
So how'd you get into football? Just something you kind of started playing when you were little?
It's just something I feel like, I mean, I don't remember never playing, like, if that makes sense. Like, I just feel like I was always playing football. A story that I always like to tell is I was preschool playing on my brother's first grade team. And I had R and L written on my hands because I didn't know my lefts and rights, but I knew like the whole playbook in our little flag league versus my left and rights. And it's just like, so football's been like instilled in me. Like that is all I've ever known. That's all I've ever done. Like that has been my, like my go-to, like that is like my passion, my love, like everything.
Nice. And with that, never not known. So you've literally grown up in football, and you've seen some kids who were awesome, and you've probably seen some kids who need a little work in some places. What, as you've been going through, and as you are working with, because while you're playing football, you're also working with high school athletes to bring them to the next level, which I think is really cool because you're literally doing what you're also saying, right? So you get to lead by example with that, which is awesome. What are some things that you notice a lot of high school athletes are lacking when they either get to the college level or just even all the way through the college level?
Yeah, so kind of something I want to like reference back with. So my senior year, I was playing basketball and I was on the keto diet. Didn't know anything about diets. I just knew it helped me lose weight. So I was like, okay, let's do the keto diet. And as an athlete, doing the keto diet was miserable. I mean, it was to the point where I literally could not even like run. I couldn't function as a person. I had no energy, so that after the game, I was literally just sitting there and I had the shakes. I had like panic attacks because I had no like fuel for my body. Like I was literally just dying almost. It was just like I was miserable sitting there because I wasn't giving my body what it needed, you know? And I mean, I did that for months on months. So when it comes to athletes, what I notice a lot of, and it might not be to that point of it, like extreme where they're doing like the keto diet, you know, during like a sport that uses more of the glycosidic pathway, right? So, you know, it's what I see a lot of the time, and it even happens now in college, is not eating a pregame meal, not even eating before the game, right? And they're not sleeping. And then those are my biggest things that I always notice with athletes, right? Because in high school, we can't expect an athlete to have, you know, a super clean breakfast, lunch, pre-workout meal, post-workout meal, and dinner. It's just like, in my opinion, it's just like, why? You know, because it's like they're in high school. Like my biggest focus is 2 meals, right? So I'm always focusing on the pre-workout meal and the post-workout meal. Because in that way, it kind of like allows them, you know, and what I mean by pre-workout meal, that could be like pre-event as well, right? So, I mean, if they have a game, I think it's super important that they're at least getting that feel for the game. And like I said, like not a lot of people do it. They just don't eat. I know I was one of them. In football, I would never eat. And I cramped up every single game. Or I didn't have enough energy to play 4 quarters. And it just never really registered to me like, hey, dude, like you got to eat. Like you have to eat. Like you're literally, you're playing, you know, a 4-quarter game, 15 minutes. Like you have to eat so that, you know, not only are you at your, I guess, max performance in the first quarter, but also in the 4th quarter, because, you know, all that conditioning that you do, all the weightlifting that you do in the summer, in the winter, and your coaches are always driving to you, you know, this is for the 4th quarter, like push through the 4th quarter, like, you know, when you're in a goal line stand, like this is what you're working for. All of that can be what it is. But if you're not properly giving your body the nutrients that it needs to get to the 4th quarter, you don't get that goal line stand if you're not playing, you know, because if you're out because of whatever reason. So I'm super big on that. You know, it's just about, okay, like let's just make sure, you know, because when it comes to performance, it's just like, let's make sure that these athletes are performing. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? So if I got an athlete that isn't playing all 4 quarters because he's hurt or he's tired, doesn't have enough energy, well, how is he going to get looked at by colleges? Colleges are going to see that, like, this dude doesn't care enough to properly give himself the fuel, the nutrition that he needs to get to the next level, you know? So, and then when it comes to sleep too, like, I mean, I think everybody here has been a high schooler. They know that they stay up really late, you know, whether I mean, especially nowadays playing Xbox or PlayStation, playing that all day long. And it's, we need sleep because that allows our body to recover. Because if you're an athlete and you're in season, out of season, right? So like you're working out, you're conditioning, or you have your event. Well, let's give your body what it needs. Let's give it the sleep that it needs so that it can recover. And not even high schoolers in general, they don't even, I feel like, worry about sleep because it's just like, oh, whatever, I'll sleep 5 hours, I can function. Well, you're leaving a lot on the table. Like, just imagine now these athletes that are sleeping 5 hours. Now you're giving them 8 hours. I mean, at least 7 in my eyes, at least 7 hours. How much better they can become as athletes because now they're maximizing their gains. They're allowing their bodies to recover, and now they can go out the next day and perform well.
Yeah. I really like the example of sleep and being deprived on sleep. So getting even 5 hours versus say 7 hours and if there are any high schoolers here, they might not, I'm going to say they might not know what I'm talking about, but if you're a parent listening, they definitely don't know what they're talking about. But it's like, kind of like you drive yourself to a party and you decide to have one drink, which is like a little bit of sleep deprived. It's like a night, and you drink it. You're like, okay, I'll probably be okay today. And then after 2 drinks, you're like, I should probably wait to leave. I need to, rest it off a little bit. You have 3 drinks and you're like, okay, I definitely can't drive home. I shouldn't drive home. I need a friend. I need a DD or anything like that. But it's almost like every time, as soon as that 4th or 5th drink hits, I'm great. I'm fine. And like, I could totally drive home. And that's exactly what sleep deprivation does. Is the first couple days, you don't really notice it and it starts to build up, and then you'll feel like garbage. But then your brain and your body goes into almost like a survival mode, and it flips the switch and goes, oh, so this is just what we're doing now. And not that it makes it any healthier, because it's not, but your brain and your body plays tricks on you to make you feel like you're getting enough sleep even when you're really not. So I think that's actually a really good example, and that's a really good point, because again, like, all of us have been in high school, we've been up late. I know right now even I'm up late because I'm not running any in-person boot camp sessions in the early morning or anything like that. I do want to go back to, though, you're talking about the two meals, and we don't really have to get into the glycolytic pathways or anything like that. I feel like that's going down a rabbit hole we could probably avoid. But if someone watching this decides that they want to talk about glycolytic pathways, or they're interested in that, I can always, hit you up, or I could talk about it myself too.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I do want to touch on is, you mentioned those 2 meals, basically a pre-work and a post-work meal.
Mm-hmm.
What would you consider, I'm not going to say the best, but what would you consider optimal? Like, what does that meal look like what should that meal look like? And what does that meal look like for someone who's in high school, who doesn't necessarily need to be, counting specific macros and everything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, one of my favorites that, I like looking back at, my high school days and like, what some of the other athletes would do, I think a Subway sandwich is perfect. And it's something that was so close to, my high school in the field that a bunch of players would go there and get the Subway sandwich, come back. I think that's perfect because, when you're looking at the pre-workout, like, obviously, games are about 3 hours long. So when I'm thinking pre-workout, especially for an event that long, I'm thinking, okay, let's just get like the first hour and a half, right? And then we can refill that later on at halftime or whatever. But when you're looking at a pre-workout meal, I think a Subway sandwich is perfect, right? Because you got the bread, the carbs. It could be like a fast digesting or slow digesting, right? And then you get all the veggies in there, right? Which is going to be also some more carbs. And then they're going to kind of keep you full, but they're not going to like stuff you. And that's what I love about having veggies too, is it's like, they're not going to sit there and they're not going to like just sit in your stomach, and you're not going to feel them, the whole first and second quarter. And then obviously you get some like the cold cut combo, right? So you get the ham and the turkey. Perfect. You know what I'm saying? Because then now it's giving you that protein and is allowing you to kind of have that, like, the protein that you need. And then, kind of whatever else you want. If you want some pickles on there, I never no problem with pickles, but even some mayo or whatever, just to kind of give a little bit of fats in there too. But obviously you want the carbs, and even like a piece of fruit too. All of my athletes before workouts have a sandwich and then some fruit, because that is something that is so easy to eat and it's so easy to kind of like utilize to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's even the same protocol kind of for my wrestler, because they usually have to wrestle a few times in one day. And luckily with high school, they either weigh in either the night before, and I always pray that they weigh in the night before,
Yeah.
because then they have the full night of recovery. But sometimes they have to weigh in the morning of, and they're wrestling an hour and a half later, which water manipulation can come into play. But if they're also carb depleted, I always tell them literally, as soon as you step off that scale, I want you smashing a sandwich. So those carbs are really important too. And I'll actually have you talk about a little bit the importance of carbs, especially in sports and performance, because you did mention keto, and a lot of people have tried keto or always are thinking about it, because people are just always talking about it. And if people always talk about it, then people want to do it.
Yeah.
So what makes I don't want to say carbohydrate based, but a diet with carbohydrates in it, what exactly makes that better than doing, say, keto when it comes to sports?
So without going down that forbidden rabbit hole that we kind of talked about earlier, kind of what the example that I always use, because, as being in the nutrition world, and this is something that, we both enjoy and that we both love doing, a lot of this stuff might seem like, oh, like this just makes sense. But people that aren't that much into it, even like into health and fitness in general, it might just be like, oh, whatever, like they're not essential, like we don't need them to live. It's like, okay, well, you're right, but like you're missing the point. So the example that I always like to use is like, okay, like pretend that you're a car, right? So you yourself are a car, and I always think of carbs as like the fuel for the car, like the gas, right? And so for my athletes, right? So if your main goal is performance, I want you at a full tank of gas, no matter if it's a workout or a game, right? And so the way that I use that with carbs is like, okay, like let's say you're only a quarter of the tank, right? And let's say like you have a game, right? And now you're in like a drag car, and then you just shoot out of that drag car, right? You're going, I think it's like a quarter mile, right? You're going to be out of that fuel like that. But now it's like, okay, you got to turn back around, and now you got to drive that quarter mile back, and you're going back and forth, back and forth. Well, if you only have a quarter tank of gas, you're not going to be doing much, right? Or even if you had a half, you're going to be really running low on that fuel, and you're going to get more tired, fatigued. And now when you're tired and fatigued, your form and your risk for injury is just going to increase. And so now if you're adding a full tank of gas, and now you're going back, you have more energy, right? So it could be like your pre-workout meal, kind of like topping everything off. And then now you have the intra, like, what I'm saying? Like now you're adding like some more fruit, applesauce, something kind of like to get you some more carbs for, in the middle, like at halftime or like in between games or in between matches. Now you're just putting that back up. Now you're filled all the way back up. So now you haven't even used half, right? And now you just filled it back up. Now you can keep going, versus the kid that had a donut and, I don't even know what kids eat nowadays, a donut and maybe an egg, right, in the morning. So now you're lasting the 4 quarters or the 6 matches in wrestling, or the 4 game tournament in baseball, or the 4 game tournament in soccer. So now the fact that you're using carbs and refueling your car, now you're just way ahead of the competition, because you took the time to take care of your body to make sure that you're utilizing the carbs so that you can perform, that you can last longer, right? So especially as athletes, like, like I said, you're going to use your main source of energy is going to come from carbs. So why wouldn't you give your body that? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't you put that in your body if your body's like, this is what I need. This is how I'm going to function properly. So, but yeah, like when it comes, like I said, when it comes to keto, like a lot of times, I don't know how much other athletes have experienced keto when I'm talking more so like, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, all those kind of sports like that. If you've ever not had enough carbs or, not properly fueled yourself, I know that you've felt different. You felt weird. And if you haven't, it's coming. Like it's gonna hit you, and you're just gonna be like your body's gonna go into shock, because it's like, dude, I need carbs. Like I need fuel. Like you're making me run on nothing. And as an athlete, like it's super important that you're giving your body what it needs to optimally perform, because that's what you want. So
yeah, I think that's actually a really good analogy. I haven't actually heard that one specifically before, so I like it. I like it. Plus, it makes a lot of sense too. So hopefully, people who are thinking about like keto and stuff like that, which again, good job avoiding that rabbit hole, by the way.
Yeah.
But again, if someone wants us to go down that rabbit hole, I'm sure both of us have no problem going down that rabbit hole. So we talked about the pre-workout meal. What are you giving them after their game or after their workout?
So it depends on the situation. And it also depends on my athlete. So if their event is a workout, and it can honestly even be a game too, but mostly for when I'm thinking of high school athlete, if it's like a Friday night and you guys just won a big football game, I might text and be like, hey, like, just get some food in your system. I know for me, I would always go to Steak and Shake after my football games in high school. So go get a Steak and Shake, go get a burger, like just kind of just put yourself back, like just kind of refill yourself. Like I'm not a super stickler about it. But when it comes to a workout, like I'm always emphasizing, shakes. I'm really big on shakes. I think they can be used so well, especially for athletes. And I always insist, like, okay, let's get a lot of carbs in that shake. So a lot of fruit, some oats, get some carbs in there. And then, some little bit of protein. So like a half scoop or a scoop of protein, with a decent amount of carbs, because you want to kind of, like I said, refuel those carbs that you lost, right? Allow your body to recover. If they're not big into shakes, which is fine. Not a lot of kids, or even athletes, they might not all have, protein powder just sitting around. Then I'm super big. Okay, let's get some chocolate milk in your system, right? So if they don't have that, I'm like, okay, get some chocolate milk and then eat a balanced meal. So that's going to be like a protein. If they're trying to gain weight, they're going to eat more, I think, in my opinion, starchy carbs. And then if they're trying to lose weight, I'd probably more so throw in some vegetables, right? So some fibers, greens, and then obviously some fats. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I would kind of utilize it. Like I said, it really just depends on the situation. If it's like a soccer player that might play 2 games a week, right? So they might play like on a Monday and then play on like a Friday or whatever, then the kind of way I would go about it is a little bit different, right? So now you're like, okay, let's just recover you for your game on Friday again, right? So we have 3 days recovery. You play on Monday, we got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Let's just get you fully recovered. That's when I might also really like suggest getting a shake, because it's like, okay, let's just get the shake in your body. And now let's go, okay, let's think recovery. Let's refuel your body. Let's get you going. And then it's like, okay, now you're ready for your game on Friday. And then after your game on Friday, it's like, okay, go have Steak and Shake, right? go eat some food, go enjoy time with your teammates, just get some food in your system. Don't just not eat. And now you're doing your body a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about the nutrition game so far. I think we're already 20 minutes in talking about nutrition, which is awesome. And I love it. But in terms of strength training, especially for high school athletes, do you have a certain age or a certain grade that they should probably start lifting by? Because I can tell you right now, working with a couple kids from high school who have never worked out before, or wrestler, I'm really glad that he worked out now, because I also I have the privilege of knowing a couple college strength and conditioning coaches for wrestlers, and the workouts that they do, which, you know, is an advantage all on its own. But I can, with him working out, I know I can prepare him. But as someone who works with more high school athletes than I do, because I honestly just have the one, which is an N of one, so limited knowledge there. When do you recommend that they actually start a strength training program?
So, in my opinion, I think it really depends on the kid. Now, when you're looking into strength training, right? So when you're looking in just to, like, let's say your compound lifts, the squats, the bench, power cleans, deadlifts, all those for athletes, I would say a good stage is about 6th to 7th grade. I just feel like that's when they're about 12 years old, usually around then. I think that's a good time to kind of get them introduced to it, whether it's they're lifting twice a week, doing just the bar. Like, I think it's a good time to really kind of focus on the form. But when it comes to doing stuff like box jumps or, speed work, agility work, kind of more of the stuff that's working on performance still, but not so much as like, all right, let's just throw you underneath the bar and let's start squatting, right? I think you could start working on like the agility ladder, box jumps fairly early, you know? And the reason I say so is because it's like, let's get you ahead of the game, right? Because even while, if you're a 4th grader and you've never done a box jump or you've never done anything performance training wise, and now you're adding that element, your body's going to grow. It's not like you're just going to do that and nothing's going to happen. And then, you're going to start growing because of that. Like, your body's going to be like, oh, like, you might start seeing some more mass on your legs. Your legs might start getting more defined. You might become more powerful. You might, if you're starting to jump at that age, what I'm saying, and now you add, let's say you do box jumps every single day from 4th grade until 6th grade. And now you start adding on the component of strength training. Your body's going to shoot up. Like, you're going to become a powerful athlete. And all athletes need to be powerful, right? They need to have that speed where they can just snap on those fast twitch fibers and just go, right? So, but to get back to your question, when it comes to strength training, I think 6th to 7th grade is a really good time to do that. Again, like I said, it obviously depends on the person, it depends on kind of, I guess, what their needs are, but I think, I know with my kid, he's going to be 6th grader and he's probably going to be in there lifting, right? He'd probably be in there when he's younger too, but I guess I really wouldn't have a set time or a set age. If the kid is sitting there itching to get in the weight room, he's just like, I want to go work out. We'll go let him go work out. Like, I think I've never been to a gym that doesn't have 5-pound dumbbells. Like, I've never been to one that doesn't have that. So allowing them to do that, like, I don't see any harm in it, but I think it should definitely be dependent on the kid. But I definitely all the kids that I've been around is usually about 6th grade.
Cool. I was going to say that also, that's how you know that you are talking to someone who knows what they're talking about when their primary answer is it depends. That's how you know, because like you said, it really does depend on the student, because they are students at that point too, whether they're students at the game, students at school, like, it's just always being a student. But I am definitely inclined to agree with that, especially on the agility work, and especially agility work early, because that agility work really helps to build the coordination. And when they have that coordination, it's so much of an easier start once they start working with weights, because all of a sudden, like, body awareness is super important. And if they're ahead of the game just doing that agility work, so like, I know a lot of soccer camps. Soccer camp, I feel like, is the big one. You see kids doing agility drills. And as someone who played soccer, just like basically every other 10, 11-year-old ever
Yeah.
does. I know that doing all the footwork drills and stuff like that really helped set me up to become a better athlete down the road.
Mhm.
That being said, I didn't really play any high school sports. I started working out because I tried joining the football team in 10th grade, which is a super late start. And our center was a good like 350-pound dude.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was like 6'5", 6'6", like between 325 and 350.
Oh my.
He was outrunning me doing laps. So that's why I actually started working out, because I was so embarrassed. I quit the football team and I just went into the high school weight room and asked the supervisor to teach me how to work out. Which, by the way, is if your high school has a gym and your kid is interested in it, having them go up and talk to the weight room supervisor. I learned so much in the next 3 years working with him. Then that stuff still influences me to this day. It was a lot of bodybuilding type stuff, but it still applied, because then working in the weight room too, I was able to. So even if your kid's not interested in playing a specific sport, just having them in the weight room and working out around these athletes, I got to work out with, and I went to Davison High School, which is a very, very big wrestling school. One of the best wrestling high schools in the country. And I got to work out with some of the wrestlers that have gone on to win national championships, or who are now coaching, and seeing their work ethic, and even surrounding yourself. It turns into you are what you surround yourself by. So if you surround yourself with people who are athletes, you're going to be more athletic. If you surround yourself around people who don't do that at all, you're not going to be. And that's the same thing with kids. Kids grow together. So I know that helped me out a lot, just being able, even if I did have a late start to it, like I was 10th grade, which I guess 15 or something like that. But I was at a disadvantage over the kids who had been doing that and who had been going through all of those things for years. So I definitely feel like that's good. I was kind of surprised to hear you say 6th or 7th grade though, and that'll probably be a little bit shocking for any parents watching this, because they've been told all their life, oh, it's going to impact the growth plates, which is, I had another guest that also works with high school hockey players primarily. And he was talking about that, and he gets riled up every time he hears that, because none of the science in the past 15 years actually supports that. But I think that's a really good start. I think that's really where to be.
Just kind of going off of like what you just said, if you're so concerned about them like strength training or weight training in like 6th grade, like, then why are they playing sports, right? Because you got to think, in the weight room, if you're going in there with a supervisor, it is a structured environment, right? And now, but if you're throwing them onto a football field, a soccer field, even a baseball field, basketball court, right? Where's the structure, right? You get a border, the out of bounds line, and that's all you get. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's safer to be in the weight room, right? And that is why all colleges and even a lot of high schools, they work on preventative measures in the weight room, right? To make the field more structured. So like when you're going in, when you're like building the muscles of the quad and your hamstring to help protect the knee, right? That's just kind of like my biggest thing about it is if you're going to sit there and kind of like, I guess, bash weightlifting, it's so much, in my opinion, more controlled. Like you can control the environment. You can add how much weight. You can even just go there and just squat. Like you could go do body weight stuff all day in the weight room. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, it's a good point too. We are actually running out of time, and I want to be respectful to your time too. I know you got some stuff going on. You have you get to find out if you get to play football today, which I'm hoping that you do, man. Especially especially going into your senior year. But that's a whole conversation for another time. If people found this interested, or if they're interested in working with you, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so obviously Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Scott Mullenix. Last name is spelled Mullenix. Instagram, I'm on there, Scott_Mullenix. So those are probably the two best ways to reach me. I'm a millennium, I guess, or I don't know what I'm technically, but so I'm always on my phone. So I'll always be checking, see who's followed me, who's added me. So yeah, those are the two best ways to find me. Reach out. I'd love to help, even just give you some information. We can sit down, get a phone call, FaceTime. I'm down for whatever. I just love helping people. So
yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. This was a lot of fun. I feel like this was an awesome conversation. And we are done with the interview with Scott Mullenix. Hopefully you found this episode very intriguing, very informative. I know I did. As we were talking, we covered a lot of good topics about how to handle the nutrition of a high school athlete, especially going into college, or people who are just starting to work college and making that jump. All of this information is super important, especially on the nutrition end, trying to make sure that our students are becoming good, strong adults, especially when it comes to athleticism. And he brought up some really good points too about having kids doing things like plyometrics and box jumps, things like that, because they really do build a really, really awesome base of strength and power going forward that once you start to introduce weights, it just helps them even more. So if you'd like to follow Scott, make sure you do so. You can go ahead and find that in the show notes. If you found this information valuable, or you know that you know of a parent who will find this episode very valuable as well, feel free to give it a like and a share, or maybe even some coaches that you know of. That being said, this is Derek Noel Fitness Live, episode 50. We've made it through 50 of these. Have a great night, everybody.